Welcome back to Total Freedom Radio, the show that's all about raising the bar of knowledge, healing hurting people, and spiritual warfare. You'll find us on revelationradio.net. After it airs, it goes to YouTube, Rumble, and Brighteon. We used to be on Tuesday night at 7, but now we are on daily at 7, and you can also find it at different times around the day when he fills it in elsewhere. We are syndicated in over 169 countries, and it is local KRRB radio from Grand Saline. Tonight, we're going to be back in our ancient paganism class, and we're going to be talking about the sorcery of the fallen angels. And tonight, specifically, part 14, paganism in the Middle Ages. We're going to talk about Groundhog Day, Hecate, or the goddess, the triple goddess, witchcraft and pedophile jewelry, charms, the Book of Shadows, and we may not get to the Book of Shadows and Wicca. We'll probably pick that up next week. But we're going to talk about when you see people's jewelry, what does that jewelry mean, and can I tell? So let's get right into that tonight and get back where we started out last time. We stopped at Yule or Odin, and so now we're going to progress into Groundhog Day. In America, Groundhog Day is celebrated on a February the 2nd. The American tradition has it that the groundhog will emerge from its burrow on that day if it sees its shadow. There will be 6 more weeks of winter, but if it doesn't see its shadow, spring will come early. We all know about that. We learned about it as children. But what does it actually mean? As we learned in the chapter about the pagan holy days, now called holidays, February 2nd is the midwinter, and the pagans call this day Imbolc. On Imbolc, the Irish Celts celebrated the feast of Brigid. The goddess Brigid was a diviner and predicted the weather. Now, remember in the Old Testament, when they were talking about the things that we weren't supposed to do, divining was one of those things. Divining is using a ritual to tell the future. The Scottish goddess celebrated on this day was called Bride. Interesting, isn't it? Most of these goddesses, or excuse me, both of these goddesses were fire goddesses. The animals that were special to the goddesses were the animals that hibernated during the winter. And if you'll notice, we're on the radio for some people, and other people you'll catch on the video platforms. And I highly encourage you to go to the video platform if you're listening to this on radio, just so you can see all the symbolism in the pictures. Um, Part of the symbol of Imbolc is the tree of life. Part of it is different symbols of fire. There's Celtic knots. You'll see some of these ceremonies where people holding candles in their hands. It's a candlelight vigil. Churches, be careful what you're bringing into your church. If you'll notice that Imbolc was a day for the Queen of Heaven. What does the Old Testament say about the Queen of Heaven? We got to know what we're doing, people, when we're celebrating some of this stuff. Okay, and among the Scots it was said, "Early on bride's morn, the serpent shall come from its hole." That's a Scottish folklore. In Scotland, the serpent foretold when the fire goddess would bring spring. In other countries, it was other hibernating animals like the badger, the hedgehog, and the bear. Now, again, this is bride, and she's celebrated in the spring. When do people get married? And what do they call the woman? The bride in the spring. See, this is adopted into our culture so deeply we don't question anything. When the German immigrants brought this tradition to America, the groundhog became the choice animal for the herald of spring. But in other countries, it was the badger, the hedgehog, and the bear. Again, it's just depending on the country which one was used. All right. Later, the medieval Christian church created what was called Saint Bridget. Because see, this is how when they were adopting some of these pagan things to get the people to come into the church, they didn't want to leave their holidays, their holy days. So they just in a lot of these big major cathedrals, they took the gods and they scrubbed the name off of it and put the names of the apostles. But they did the same thing with some of the holy days as well. So they created Saint Bridget and combined much of the trappings of the goddess Bridget with these celebrations. And again, it was on February 2nd. It was kept as her day, but the name was changed to Candlemas. The medieval church saying goes, "If Candlemas be fair and bright, winter has another flight. If Candlemas brings clouds and rain, winter will not come again." and that's a medieval Christian tradition, goes back to the Catholic Church, and I might be saying that wrong. It may be Candlemas. I'm not familiar with that, and I meant to look it up and totally failed to do that. All right, let's look at some of the symbolisms that's used to worship these fire goddesses. This is Saint Bridget's cross, and if you are listening by radio, it's a Celtic cross, and it is symbolized by it's a cross with a circle around it, right where the crossbars meet, and the ends of the crossbars are always wider than in the middle. This is a powerful symbol upon Wiccans among Wiccans today, and one of the things that I have found very interesting and somewhat concerning is, I sell life insurance. Before COVID, we went to everybody's houses, and I cannot tell you in my part of Texas how many times I've walked into a room, a house. There's a wall going into the living room, into the foyer, maybe by the kitchen, where they just have every kind of cross they could possibly find, and it's very decorative, very pretty, and I know that they're Christian families and they're putting up crosses. But many of these crosses that are used go back to false religions. They go back to the gods and goddesses. So, ladies, particularly, please explore these crosses before you hang them in your house. One Celtic custom was to leave a white cloth hanging on the front door on the evening of February 2nd. The next morning, if the cloth was marked, then Bridget passed by that night and blessed the home. Now, see how this is a take off of Leviticus 16, where the scarlet thread of the goat was tied to the head of the scapegoat during the Yom Kippur ritual, and it was a significant symbol of atonement and divine acceptance from God. It was made from scarlet dyed wool and was tied to the goat's head to signify the transfer of Israel's sins. If the thread turned white on Yom Kippur, that indicated that God had accepted the sacrifice and had forgiven the sins of the people. Satan always, always duplicates stuff that God does. This miraculous transformation was a sign of God's approval and a reminder of the atoning work of Jesus Christ, who offered the ultimate sacrifices for the sins of humanity. And if you're watching by video, you'll see these woven, um this is another form of a Celtic cross. We used to call it a God's eye. We used to do these as kids and never had an inkling that it went back to paganism in any form. All right, let's look at some more. And if I hesitate a minute, it's because I'm also flipping it on the big screen so I can see it better. All right, these are symbols of Saint Bridget's, the fire goddess. And for those of you by radio, I'm going to try to describe it for you a little bit, but there's nothing like a visual. So again, go to the video platforms afterward. One of the symbols of Bridget is the symbol of the triform goddess, and we'll break these down a little bit more on the next screen, but I just want to give you an idea. You'll see symbolism. It'll look like the two phases of the moon turned opposite ways with the full moon in the middle. You will see a triquetra, which is the three ovals interwoven. Sometimes it looks like a spiral. Sometimes it has a circle around it or a circle built into it. Sometimes it's a heart form. Sometimes they're set in a triangle themselves. We'll talk about that just in a minute. Sometimes you'll see the maiden and the lady in the crone. So let's go to the next slide. All right, here it's broken down just a little bit more. Let me swap my big slide. All right, the triple goddess as maiden, mother, and crone, the beautiful woman, the symbol of the moon phases. Hecate is mythology, Wicca, witchcraft, and vector. It stands for all of these things. Hecate was a goddess that was generally worshipped where three roads met together. So it always is a symbol of three. Many times it's symbolized by the different triangles, but almost always with these three interwoven ovals, with or without a circle. It's also symbolized by a star in a circle, which we know as a pentacle, sometimes a pentagram, they'll call it, and that is a symbol of witchcraft. You'll also see the spiral in the body of a woman, where her reproductive organs are. The spiral alone many times means a portal. If you see the circle with the half moon on top of it, that is the horned god. And then you look down on the right, you'll see Hecate's circle. Anytime you see that, that is what that symbolizes. And anytime you see the three phases of the moon, with or without the ladies' faces. This is the symbol of Hecate, is the symbol of Bridget, is the symbol of bride, is the symbol of these fire goddesses and these goddesses outright. Now, remember, they were not supposed to be worshiping them, they were supposed to be worshiping the Lord. All right, here, let's break it down just a little bit more. Here is different forms of the triquetra. This is the power of three. And there used to be a witchcraft show. I cannot think of the name of it way back when my children would be raised, but they always were talking about the power of three. You'll hear, oh, here's what it is. It's on here, the TV series Charmed. And I know we all grew up saying, okay, third time's charm, but literally this is where it goes back to. This is a Trinity Celtic knot. It's probably the first and most popular of all Celtic knots. This is the one that you'll most likely to be familiar with if you didn't know it. In fact, you talk about someone's having a little not too happy moment when the New King James Bible first came out. It had this symbol on it. It wasn't long that they removed it, but I remember seeing it and thinking, what in the world are they doing here? Um, the triquetra is a Latin word. It means triangular or three-cornered. In its purest form, it's three interconnected ovals, one pointing upward, the other two pointing down to the left and to the right. It meant initially as triangle, it was used to refer to the various three-cornered shapes. Sometimes the traditional triquetra symbol is accompanied by a circle, as I mentioned. And it's in the Celtic tree of life, they favored that everything in the world came in threes. The three stages of life were life, death, and rebirth. The three elements, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and people will jump on that now, but they weren't talking about the ones from the Bible. This was all adopted when the Catholic Church moved up through England, up through and began to adopt some of the paganistic ways to get the people in the church. It also symbolizes the three domains, earth, sea, and sky, and past, present, and future, which is another way of saying reincarnation. And if you'll look on here, you'll notice it's on Thor's hammer. So that kind of gives us an idea as well. Remember, Thor is another name for that Odin went by. So here is another form of it. If you'll look on this little green rock, it's got three spirals pulled together in this same triangular form. If you'll look right above that, there's a little more stylized ones. This is said to mean eternal life and is believed to be one of the oldest Celtic designs. Now, they're not talking about the eternal life that God gives. They're talking about, again, reincarnation, where you're dying, born, and dying, born, dying, and born eternally. This is another knot that's three-sided that stands for water, fire, and earth, which are the forces of nature. Now, again, this is some of the things that they are worshiping on these holidays, holy days. These designs feature a single continuous line that represents the oneness of spirit and unity. In the Neolithic age of Europe, it's common to see single and double spirals on temples and other monuments in Europe. In the American Southwest, you'll see, and sometimes the Midwest, you'll see a single spiral, and generally it stands for a portal that opens and closes in that area. The whorls of the spiral stand for continuous growth, while the gaps between the spirals stand for the gaps between life, death, and rebirth. Remember, again, that is talking about reincarnation. Of course, it's down to your own interpretation and what it means to you with all these symbols, but I will tell you this. I can't tell you how many, particularly women, have said, Rena, it doesn't mean that to me. But you know what? If it means that in the spiritual world, it started out meaning that, it's always meant that, it probably means that now. Even if you choose to close your eyes to it, that doesn't mean that the spiritual world will. So let's look at it in jewelry form. And you guys, I'm not meaning to bash any particular company. If you'll notice, I took the company off of here. I just want to show you how easily it is to find it, and that they actually outright say what it is. This is Celtic Trinity Knot pendants for good luck, Irish Triskelly charms necklace for gift friendship, the Triquetra Love Knot, and it outright states it's a Wiccan pagan talisman jewelry. You can't get any more clear than that. Okay, again, you'll see the various forms of the triquetra with and without the circle. You'll see several put together. You'll see it with a heart. You'll see it set inside a circle. sometimes with more Celtic weaving. You'll see the triskel in the circle. You'll see, it's on Thor's hammer. You'll see the 3 moons, the phases of the moons interconnected. Guys, again, go to the video platforms and look at all of these because I want you to be able to recognize them when you see them. You don't have to remember the name. You just gotta remember what this symbolizes. Up here on the right, there's some more types of Celtic knots, and we'll break those down in just a minute. Um, Down here in the bottom middle, you'll again see jewelry that with all of this in, it's a slightly different form. It does have several of the stars in the circle, which is the traditional symbol of witchcraft. If the star is upside down, it's usually traditionally the symbol of Luciferianism or Satanism, we would call it. I want to stop for just a minute right now and talk about um, my businesses. I have joined with Craig Mickle that I interviewed a couple of weeks ago with Saving God's Children. If you're here in around East Texas, you want me to come talk for a women's ministry group or your church and talk to you about how easily pedophiles are reaching into our children through their tablets and their phones, I will be happy to do that. Um, don't forget, I write the new book series, Prepare for the End. I was planning on having book 6 out by December 1st and have it all edited and ready to go, and my computer glitched, and of all things, the cover disappeared. I'm gonna have to start all over with that, and hopefully, I'll try to get that done this weekend and get it out for you. Um, don't forget, I sell a little life insurance. This time of year, I've been talking to people about accident coverage. People are out and about. There's a lot of people out and about on the road, and you would be surprised how one family accident can change not only the entire dynamics of the family, but financially it can ruin one. I had a cousin and his wife and son and grandson killed in a car wreck a few years ago in Dallas, and it is unbelievable the cost. It's not uncommon to start at 1.5 million for the payout. You've got last minute hospital bills, you have got property damage, you have got, burial, you've got lawsuits. I mean, it's endless. So go to, Rina, thatinsurancechick.com, send me a contact form, or contact me at askrinalynn@yahoo.com, and please let me give you a quote. I can get just to give you an idea how cheap it is, I can get a half a million on a lady under 50 for $36. And if it has to do with a motor vehicle accident, it pays out 150%. You're talking $750,000. That'll pretty good chunk goes toward a 1 million payoff. So contact me about that or any of this other life insurance you have here. I do it all, and I want to get back full time into that and do a little bookkeeping as well because I want to be free to be able to work with Saving God's Children. All right. This is the time of year where people usually want their books cleaned up. They want them nice and tidy for the accountant when they get their taxes done. And I used to work for a tax specialist out of Dallas. That was my job. I was the head of the bookkeeping department, and I specialized in cleaning up messed books. And I'm telling you, I've seen some messed up books. So contact me again at askrinalynn@yahoo.com and let's see what we can do for you. It'll help me right now stay free for helping out in these ministries, and it will help me with my income because I actually support my writing habit by working. So thank you so much if you have been buying a policy from me and helping me. All right, let's get right back into our study. I hate to take up too much time with that sort of thing. Just one of those housekeeping things that has to be done. Right here again, it is some more of the jewelry. You'll see the pentagram moon is what it's called. It's the 3 phases of the moon, and this particular one has the star and the circle in the middle. That is a classic symbol of witchcraft, of Wicca. If you see that, they're not by mistake. All right, you'll see the Celtic circle with the pentagram in it as well. You'll see the tree of life with the pentagram inside there. Now, I want you to understand this tree of life is used a lot for holistic doctors. I do see a holistic doctor. She's a friend of mine. I know she's a Christian, a very wonderful lady. Um, we've had that conversation a couple times, but I also know that I'm careful with this because I know where this symbol goes back, and we'll talk about that again down the road. Because usually during all of this class, I'll do one night or two on New Age symbolism, and we'll probably catch it in there. But see all the different forms. There's not just one form. Some of it's a little more stylized, but once you know what to look for, you'll see it. All right, let me change this one more time. And we'll talk about just some Celtic symbols all around. This is another symbol of St. Bridget. For you on the radio, it looks kind of like a square with a circle and then a lot of weaving in it. This shield knot, as it's called, the Celtic shield knot, is an ancient Celtic symbol of protection. Now, this knot was placed near eel people or on battle shields for warding off the evil spirits or any other danger. Now, that sounds pretty good, but a lot of pagan symbols that ward off evil spirits use a higher level evil spirit to do that. It can be made in several designs, but its uniqueness lies in its four distinct corners. A shield knot is usually shaped as a square or appears to be a square within a circle. Besides being a part of the ancient Celtic culture, the shield knot is believed to have been used by several other cultures, also for invoking the protective power of the gods, not God, but the gods that it represented. All right, this next one I've seen quite often as well. This is called a Solomon's knot for you on the radio. It kind of looks like two paper clips in a wove together in a plus sign inside a circle. It's a very ancient Celtic knot symbol that is believed to represent the union of a man and the divine. Now, when you hear that union of man and divine, we're usually talking about the union of the fallen angels and the human women. It's called tantric sex as well. In fact, it is one of the oldest symbols and it's seen even in Stone Age carvings. It's also one of the few symbols that can be found in nearly all the major civilizations. Why wouldn't it? It goes back to the beginning. Its frequent appearance in ancient synagogues led to it being linked with King Solomon's, why it's called Solomon's knot. Solomon's knot lends itself to several symbolic interpretations. And let me just throw in, too, if you'll remember, Solomon married quite a lot of women, well over 1,000, and many of them were pagan ladies. So it could very well go back to the time of Solomon. Absence of any beginning or end in the knot makes it a symbol of eternity and immortality, while the design of two intertwined figures makes the knot a symbol of love. And again, that symbol of eternity. Remember Lucifer, the everlasting one. That's the circle is a symbol of him. The Ouroboros, the snake swallowing his tail, is the same, and it has to do with reincarnation. And anytime you have the two entwined figures, you have the male and female together. People will call that love, but it generally goes back to tantric sex and the union between the fallen ones and women from humans. Right. And now this one. Again, this one is I have seen on many, many walls in Texas homes, and they do not know what they have on the wall. For the most part, there's a few homes I've been in, I'm pretty sure they knew what they had. Um, at its most basic, the Celtic knot symbolizes the sign of the cross. If you look closely at knots with crosses, you'll find that the knots hide the crosses between the knots ribbons. By the exact definition, an Irish cross or Celtic cross has to have four semicircles cut away at the 4 points where the horizontal and vertical beams meet. For those of you listening by radio, we're looking at a cross with a circle around where the two pieces meet. It's also a common trait that the lower vertical section is wider at the base than at the point where it meets the center. Sometimes they all are. The other sections are sometimes rectangular. Neither of these are strictly adhered to in modern symbols, and then we're going to see some variations of it. Um, I'm swapping two screens because this is so little for me. I've got to have it on my big screen as well, so it takes me a minute. That's what I'm doing. All right. The difference between a Celtic cross and a sun cross is this. If you're looking for some Celtic cross jewelry, make sure you know the difference in a Celtic cross and a sun cross. A sun cross, it literally looks like a circle with a plus sign in it. We're talking about the quartered circle that goes all the way back. This is the basic symbol for the four first pagan holidays. It can also stand for the 4 seasons of the year, which remember the 4 seasons of the year is when they went to the places where they played with their neighbors' wives and daughters. And it can also symbol the 4 stages of the day: morning, midday, evening, and midnight. whereas a Celtic cross is typically wider at the base than where it meets the point. Basically, the Celtic cross looks again more like an actual cross or plus sign than a sun cross, and it is contained within the circle. Where if you'll look in this middle picture, you've got the small Celtic cross with a smaller bottom upright laying on top of the circle. They're similar, but they are not the same. Okay, let's look at an ancient version of this. This cross is rich in powerful representation and an ideal reflection of the hopes and ambitions of the Celts. While the cross is certainly a Christian symbol, it has its roots in ancient pagan beliefs at the same time. Now remember, Satan thought he won when he put Jesus on that cross. So we use this cross as a Christian symbol, but it wasn't always. And back in, very, very part of paganistic symbolism. Now, here's something I pulled off. I'll show you a book just in a minute. In fact, let me flip to it. Ah, wrong way. I don't think I got that in here for some reason. I meant to. Well, let me just pull it up like this, and then we'll swap it up. Here's a book by Dr. Kathy Burns that I have used for years and years and years. It's Masonic and Occult Symbols Illustrated, and you will find a lot of things in there and actually what they mean. I would highly, highly recommend this book to you. You can get it on Amazon. It's a little bit more pricey now than it was when I bought it, but if you are a student of symbolism, if you want to know what you've got around you, what your children are using, what your neighbors got in their house, whatever you want, what they're hanging in the church now. This is a really, really good resource. Um, here is some different symbols from different religions. We've got some Christian ones, but they're mostly pagan. I'm not going to go over them all for the people on the radio. You can go over and look at it on the video platforms, but I do want to point out a few. Um, One is, Judaism, if you'll see the six-pointed star. Now, we know that today seems to be the Jewish emblem, but it wasn't always. That was something that was put on them to shame them because this is an extremely occultic symbol. If you'll notice, it has the downward pointing triangle. It symbolizes the area that a woman would be covered by her bottom part of her bikini. And then the man's part is the upward pointed triangle intersecting with that part of the other triangle. And again, this can go back to tantric sex. Okay, you've got an atheist symbol, you've got the communist symbol, the spiral of the Native Americans, you've got Taoism, which is typically what we would call a yin yang, the dark and the light inside a circle, and that symbolizes that there is a good God and a bad God, and they're equal and stay in balance. And we know that's wrong. You've got the Christian cross. If you look at the horn of Odin, that's again the triquetra with the three ovals interconnected, only it goes out into Odin's horn. You've got the Ankh of Egypt. You've got the star in the circle for Wicca. You've got down on the bottom, the basic symbol for paganism itself is the quartered circle, the circle with the plus sign in it. If you'll look to the right of that, you've got the satanic cross, and I really don't think I have to tell you what's being symbolized there. So you guys get familiar with these symbols. You won't always remember which one it is or what religion it goes to, but you'll kind of have an idea that it's probably not something you want in your house or you want in your children's room hanging on the wall. Um, I had my daughter had a teacher that literally every, art project they sent home for a while was pagan symbols, and I finally had a talk with her. She had no idea. This one I put in here, I learned this years back, and it's kinda really bothered me. And now that I'm the rep for saving God's children, I really wanna get this information out there to you. This is called pedophile jewelry, and you will see it more than you could possibly imagine. The one on the top left it's blue and it is a large triangle with a smaller triangle inside it. This logo is used by pedophiles who like young boys. The small triangle represents a small boy, while the bigger one represents an adult man, according to the FBI document that I found. All right, if they're a girl lover, You're going to have a larger heart that signifies that a pedophile is sexually attracted to young girls. The two hearts symbolizes a relationship between an adult male or female and a minor girl, according to the U.S. agency. I have seen this quite frequently at Mother's Day being offered to sell for mothers. So if you see a woman wearing this, it doesn't necessarily mean that, but be careful and stay away from this. Down on the bottom, you'll see the little boy lover. This is a variation of the boy lover logo used by pedophilias who like very, very young boys. It also features a spiral shaped triangle, but its corners are not straight and it's deliberate and it's meant to resemble the scribbling of a young child, FBI agents say. Now, someone who doesn't differentiate whether they like boys or girls is symbol for the child lover. This is for pedophiles who do not have a gender preference. These are people who are sexually attracted to young boys and girls. It looks like a butterfly and it's made of hearts, and there's a large and a small pink heart and a large and a small blue heart. And the large ones represent the adult and the small ones represent the child. Now, the symbols aren't just limited to social media, with pedophiles having etched them into rings and pendants and even imprinted them in coins, and we'll see those just in a second. They've also previously been found on children's toys to the horror of parents. I had a toy that I'd bought my child and found that on, and we didn't keep it. The logos and their sickening meanings were detailed in an FBI bulletin titled Symbols and Logos Used by Pedophiles to Identify Sexual Preferences. You can Google that. I think it's still up. From a colorful butterfly and an oddly shaped spiral to a pink layered heart, they could be the scrawls of young children. But these symbols are actually used by pedophiles to identify their sexual preferences to other pedophiles on social media. So watch this. You'll even see it sometimes in shop windows as stickers. I'll never forget the look on my face the first time I ran into that. The innocent looking logos distinguish what gender and age of child the pedophiles are sexually attracted to, according to the experts. If you see it on blogs and webcasts, they're accompanied by disturbing descriptions such as boy lover, girl lover, and little boy lover. And if you look down here on the bottom, this is a media activism logo from a company that where they've kind of shoved it together and put it in a circle with some, I would say, action lines. But this is lets other people know that they're interested in children. See, it's out there. We just don't know what we're looking at because we're innocent or it's been kept from us. But it's my job to raise the bar of knowledge, so I'm doing that. Now here is some of the actual jewelry as well. You'll see again the gold larger circle, larger heart and smaller heart that indicates that an adult likes little girls. And again, this is actually sold at Mother's Day, so, take that maybe with a grain of salt, but be careful. You'll see the coin, there's a quarter over here that has the stamp in it of the large and small triangle in it. Down on the bottom, you'll see a series of rings and pendants. And I have actually seen these, and it's just extremely disturbing to me. And next week, we will start talking about Wicca itself a little bit more. We'll talk about the book Shadows that I thought we would get to here, but we're not. So, you guys hang with me. Drop a comment under there and like, share, and subscribe. And this is being December, so it's the time of year when people have some benevolent money. So, there's two things that I would like for you to think about using that for. One, this platform could use some sponsorship. So, if you go to rinalynn.com, there is a donation button and a donation QR code, or also go to savinggodschildren.com and whatever amount, help us get this information in the hands because everything on that website's free. And Craig does a lot of things out of his own pocket, sending to churches. I've been doing some stuff out of my pocket, going to churches, and we would love to have some help doing that. But thank you for visiting with Total Freedom Radio with Rina Lynn, and I'll catch you the next time. Good night.